Good evening, race fans, and welcome to another live presentation of the Dynasty Racing League right here on DRL TV. My name is Getty Buckner. With me, as always, is the intellectually superior Mr. Martin Wenzel. It is our pleasure to bring to you live coverage of the Chicagoland 200, which is race number 17 for the Molnar Automotive Cup Series. Tonight we run 200 miles or 133 laps here at Chicagoland Speedway. Now located in Joliet, Illinois, which is about an hour southwest of Chicago proper, Chicagoland Speedway has been hosting Cup Series races since 2002. Now it's not the most popular racetrack among stock car fans. Most people say it lacks the uniqueness that tracks need to stand the test of time. One thing this track does have is a history of close finishes. In professional stock car racing, 8 of its first 12 races that were run here had a margin of victory under 1 second. Also, the closest finish in the history of the IndyCar series was right here at the Chicagoland Speedway back in 2002. Of course, close finishes aren't always guaranteed. Last night on DRL TV, we saw the Northeast Ohio Ghostbusters Grand National Series finish with 4 cars on the lead lap and a margin of victory that was over 20 seconds. Now, Martin, as you look into your crystal ball, what type of race do you anticipate us having here tonight in the Chicagoland 200?
Well, I'm hoping these Cup guys can replicate what happened last night in the Grand National race, a green flag the whole way. There was only 1 yellow flag early on in that Grand National race. I'm hoping for a closer race, but I can't tell you how the cars operate here, the Cup cars operate here, because I haven't run them in a while at Chicagoland. But with the guys we have out there, I mean, already we got Justin Bolton making his DRL debut, and he's already set down the 3rd fastest lap here in practice. The usual suspects up front in that top 10, I mean, those guys, it's going to be a dogfight up there. And I'm hoping this race, I don't think this race is going to end with only 4 guys on the lead lap and a huge margin of victory.
No, I don't either. Actually, right now we are following along with last night's winner in the Grand National Series, Mr. Wade Hustad. Again, he beating James Lorello by over 20 seconds. And he even said it in the post-race. He drove an absolutely flawless race, and obviously he's normally a humble person so for him to say that, it obviously was true. But here with the more horsepower that we have here at Chicagoland versus the B Cup cars, I've heard people mention that tonight's setup that we have is, I mean, I've heard people say that it's incredibly tight, and I've heard people say that it's almost undrivably loose. So to see that many drivers have a different opinion kind of tells me that we're definitely going to have an interesting race tonight for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it depends on how hard you're pushing the car as well. I mean, I know when people say that, it's like, oh, this car's undrivable. It's like, I have no problem driving the car, but maybe I'm just going slow. But yeah, like the Grand National, I mean, that set seemed pretty stable actually. Yeah, as far as I ran it. Now, of course, we are running the dynamic weather, and so it changes, versus just a fixed race where the weather's, solid, whatever it is, the default. But it seemed pretty stable last night as far as when I raced after the Grand National race, so I don't know how much that applies to the actual Grand National race, but yeah, we'll see how this Cup set is. I mean, that's the difference. I mean, these cars are very different from the B class, the Grand National cars, as well as the trucks, obviously. And so sometimes it might be very loose in the Grand National car and then very tight in the Cup car, or vice versa, or just a complete mess in one of the cars. And as you're saying, yeah, some of the drivers are saying it's undrivable. So yeah, well, that might be a result of the track being 94 degrees. I mean.
Well, and I took I did a couple test laps here, and for me the car is certainly loose. But one thing, watching these guys in practice, there might be a couple little tough spots that these guys have to deal with. Stuff that we kind of saw in last night's race as well. Turn 2 being kind of a weird turn where you want to exit, and it seems like you have more stuff to deal with. but all of a sudden you just run out of room completely. And I think part of that has to do with that weird curved backstretch that we have here at Chicagoland Speedway. So I think the exit of these corners are still going to be very busy today, as far as these cars collecting the outside wall. But I mean, these cars are incredibly fast, Martin. They're going over 200 miles an hour as they enter into turn 1 on their hot laps. Obviously, with tire wear and stuff, that'll start to slow down. But still, over 200 miles an hour here at just a regular mile and a half. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's got the same got sort of the same feel as a Michigan, where it's just this big track. You got a lot of space, you get a lot of speed, and can get spread out pretty quickly. But yeah, it does have a little bit of a funky turn there, funky corner, and yeah, I don't know what it is. I'm just trying to draw on my knowledge of what I did last night. Then, you know, the one thing that these guys shouldn't do, which I learned not myself personally, but the guy right in front of me, he learned really quickly, was don't just go for 2 tires after 30 or 40 laps when you get a yellow flag or you do your green flag stops. Try to gain a few positions, because you're gonna be going sideways through these turns. You just take your right side tires. So get 4 fresh tires whenever you can.
Yeah, no, and that's something that I'm sure all these drivers, Chicagoland is almost notorious for, especially as it has aged. It seems to be very, I don't know, what's the term? It just hasn't aged that well, I guess is what I'm trying to say, because all the grip here, it's almost similar to like a Darlington or an Atlanta, where there's just no grip here anymore. So you're just hanging on for dear life, basically, for 133 laps here. We're gonna, for qualifying here, as we set the field for the Chicagoland 200, we're gonna follow Wade Hustad, who was the fastest in practice. Also, again, the winner last night. We'll see what kind of hot lap he's able to put up, as I'm sure he'll be getting plenty of competition from the likes of Anthony Burrows, who, if people didn't watch last week's race, he was the winner of the Sonoma race last week, as he and Kean Howell were absolutely the class of the field. Kean Howell obviously got brushed up with some other cars there, even after leading almost all of the 50 laps there. So
yeah, David Wright just wiped out on his second. Well, it looks like his second lap, so I think he's already set a time, right? Yeah, he already got a time in. But on that second lap, wiped out. Christopher running on a Chicagoland Motorsport. He's got a new paint scheme for the first time in DRL.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's been running that Hooters, that orange Hooters, throwback, Alan Kulicki. He's been running that since last season, and I remember him running that at Michigan that he won last year. His only race he won in DRL, at least in the Cup Series. Now he's got something new going here. Chicagoland Motorsport, black and white car, black, white, and red.
Yeah, and as you're talking about him, we're kind of watching Wade Hustad here put down a monster lap, 29.622, which is faster than what these guys even did in practice. So incredibly quick there for Mr. Hustad. Anthony Burrows, those guys were 1-2 in practice. So no surprise to see those guys up here so far in qualifying.
I wonder what happened to Chad Presnell. I saw him going around, and now he's just exiting the pit. Hasn't put a time down yet. So hopefully he gets out there.
Yeah, a couple people have yet to come out. Justin Bolton, Michael Morley, Mike Springer, David Wright, as you mentioned. He did end up putting a lap down, so that's good.
Michael Morley and Abbas Sidak won't be in the race. Won't be participating. So who do we got still? Chad Presnell is going around on his warm-up lap. Well, technically his lap 1, so it'll be a slow lap here, if it even counts. And then he'll have to work on that second lap to get a time in. Matt Kleinschmidt is crawling around. He's going to be setting one of those 4 or 5 minute kind of laps. Justin Bolton, he's not even in his car. Hopefully he shows up. I mean, he's a new driver. Mm-hmm. Definitely was the talk of the week when he joined, because he is a got quite a high IR. Some people were a little concerned that maybe he'd come in here and just win all the races. But I think there's enough competition that he's gonna, it's not gonna just be him running away with everything.
No, certainly not. We've got a bunch of top-tier guys. One of them who was not even here today, Mr. Eric Wolf, as he noted in last week's broadcast, that he was going to be missing this week's race at Chicagoland. But, he had a very impressive race last week, so... it's a shame to see him miss this week, but again, we have Wade Hustad, Anthony Burrows, Jonathan Schwartz, Eric Johnson, our guys that are constantly near the top, Jordan Gonzalez with a good top 10 qualifying spot. So it looks like right now Wade Hustad is going to hang on to that pole position, which will be his second in a row for the Dynasty Racing League, as he won the pole position last night as well, just beating out Kean Howell. Tonight he ends up beating out Anthony Burrows by just a few 100ths of a second there.
Well, looking at it, I think Justin Bolton, if he does get in his car, and I hope he does, but he's gonna have to go down pit lane. He's gonna get a black flag because he didn't even attempt. Thomas Harmon looked like he attempted. I saw him skidding through the grass, so he just wiped out. So he will not get a black flag, or he shouldn't get a black flag, as per the new rules. That you just have to attempt to put down a qualifying lap. Put a good faith attempt in, and if you wipe out because you're, just lose it, you won't be penalized for that. So who's on the pole? Wade Hustad, Anthony Burrows, Caden Honeycutt.
Yeah, Mr. Wade Hustad and Honeycutt, he's coming off a really good performance at Iowa last week in the Truck Series. So. Now, as we have finally set the field here, I suppose we can come down here and grab Wade Hustad and have a little conversation with him. Justin Bolton did end up getting in his car, so he probably most likely will get that black flag. Again, I anticipate we'll probably have a couple quick cautions. That won't really be a big deal for him. Just looking at the... trying to find Wade Hustad here. There we go. Hey, Wade Hustad, you got a copy, sir?
I do.
Hey, man, congratulations on a pole. You had a great race yesterday. You led all but one lap in the Grand National Series. Tonight, we're in a different car. It's a different beast. Same track, though. So what do you have for these guys tonight?
I think we got something for them tonight. It's definitely going to be a run for our money. I think maybe we can pull something off. I'm hoping for a top 5 finish. Just got to be consistent on those longer runs. I'm hoping to get those tonight, and we'll see where we sit at the end.
Awesome, Wade. Well, I appreciate your time as always, and have a great race, and hopefully we are talking to you at the end.
Thanks, guys. We hope to put on a good show.
Martin talking to Wade Hustad again. He seems certainly like he's ready to put on another awesome performance, but he's definitely going to have some stiffer competition tonight, as Jonathan Schwartz, Anthony Burrows, and those gentlemen, as you can see the starting lineup here for the Chicagoland 200. Certainly pretty good company up there at top. 6th position there, Eric Johnson, a guy that I've spoken about many times. He's the type of driver I really feel like he could really use. He's so close to getting that win, you know what I mean? He just needs a little bit of luck. Now, another thing we have to keep in mind is that these drivers are now, as far as the playoff points, which we will go into, we'll go into more detail later, but Anthony Burrows picked up his 6th win last week. These guys can't let Anthony Burrows continue to get these wins. They need to make sure that they're aggressive and take these wins for themselves, or else they're going to be starting well behind when we start our playoffs in about a month or two, I'd say.
Yeah, that's what Eric Johnson and Mike Springer are looking for there. Those guys are your top points guys who have not gotten wins. They're going to be looking for that win to lock themselves in and gain some more bonus points, as Wade Hustad takes off, gets a nice little jump there.
And just like last night, Wade Hustad off to a great start. Caden Honeycutt following him. Caden Honeycutt again.
A little loose there. And Gonzalez gets a little loose too, also, and goes down into below the white line.
We've seen a lot of cars really lose their tail end out of turn 2, and some out of turn 4. They're out 3 wide back there with Jordan Gonzalez. Looking back there, they're 3 wide on exit with Siberius Jackson. Mark Johnson looks like.
Yeah, Mark Johnson's aggressive. He's gonna take those positions if if you're slow, and he'll go 3 wide. So you don't want to make a mistake when he's around.
Right. Now we have certainly seen what happens there. Justin Bolton does take that pass-through penalty there for not attempting a crawl lap here, as we're still looking at that battle with Jordan Gonzalez inside Eric Jackson. Up here at front, though, we'll shift our attention. Jonathan Schwartz looks like he has passed Caden Hunter to take that 3rd spot. Behind them, it looks like there's a little bit of a battle here with Mike Springer and Eric Johnson. Chris Stouffer right behind them. We are actually riding along with Chris Stouffer in the 8th position, looking to get past Eric Johnson and Mike Springer. Again, I'm
watching Thomas Harmon. Thomas Harmon is just cruising through the back of the field. He started second to last with Justin Bolton having to go into the pits, and he is already past, it looks like 7 or 8 cars, and he's blowing past Alec Martinez right now for another position.
Now, as you were mentioning about Thomas Harmon, Anthony Burrows getting passed by Jonathan Schwartz and Caden Honeycutt, so Burrows will drop back to 4th. Wade Hustad is the leader. Out in front of his mirror, however, is Justin Bolton coming out from pit road, so he is on the tail end of the lap here. So,
yeah, Justin Bolton's gonna be, he's gonna be waiting for that, or hoping for that quick yellow flag to get himself back with the pack.
You did mention Thomas Harmon here. You're looking at him.
Yep.
He's he's got that starting position near the tail end of the field there. Already gained almost 10 spots. Very, very similar to what Eric Wolf did last week at Sonoma. Looks like Alec Martinez has got a ton of right side damage.
Yeah, that's why he's falling back. He's just dropping back like crazy, and that from all that damage. And it looks like he just.
Yeah, we're riding on board with him now and just looking at that right front damage there.
Man, it looks like he's dropped out of the race already too. I'm always confused how people do that, how they manually disconnect when they're still like moving.
Alt F4.
Just an Alt F4 because I've never done that. So I usually, if you want to do the proper way or the when you're going 200 miles per hour and all of a sudden you're gone.
Now, there's close racing, but there's not a lot of side-by-side racing now. It looks like most of the top 10.
Yeah,
the closest battle, it looks like maybe Chad Presnell and Mark Johnson. But up here, these top 3, we're looking at Wade Hustad, Jonathan Schwartz, Caden Honeycutt. Anthony Burrows is kind of falling back just a little bit. But last night, of course, we saw that this racetrack was very open to having that long green flag run here. It's quite possible that some guys will start saving tires earlier than others. A fuel run here is about 50 laps, but as for right now, these top 3 guys are fighting it out pretty quick. They're fighting out pretty hard as Wade Hustad, Jonathan Schwartz, and Honeycutt are just within tenths of one another here.
Yeah, I don't know how much the Cup cars deteriorate in handling-wise with tire wear. With the Grand National cars, I think the longest run I did last night was about 25, 30 laps, and it didn't seem to deteriorate. Handling wasn't a trouble. I mean, you lost time, obviously you started going slower, but it wasn't like if you were on 30-lap tires, you were fighting that car to stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
So it won't be so much a handling issue, but if you are able to save your tires a little bit earlier on, as these front guys, these 3 leaders, burn their stuff off a little bit, I think Anthony Burrows will be able to catch back up to them and maybe gain a position or 2 before the green flag stops.
Again, we are watching Chad Presnell try to take a 9th position for Mark Johnson. But speaking about Anthony Burrows there, it's certainly possible that he's just kind of taking it easy. He already has 6 wins in his pocket, so he's obviously lap 11 here. He's going to not be in a huge hurry as we're some of these battles here now have become side-by-side battles. We have Mike Springer, Chris Stouffer that were side-by-side for a second, Eric Johnson, and not Eric Johnson, who is that behind him? Chad Presnell and Mark Johnson.
Well, those guys started 9th and 10th. Mark Johnson 9th, Presnell 10th, and now they're battling for 11th. No, they started 11th, 12th, battling for 9th and 10th. They're in 9th and 10th now. Gotta get my which one I'm looking at, the right one.
Looking back here, looks like Jordan Gonzalez, he is the one who started ahead of those drivers, but fell back as we saw him get loose off of turn 2. He's battled back quite nicely. Currently passing Sidarius Jackson for the 11th position. Sidarius Jackson holding 12th. Aaron James 13th. Go back a little bit further. We've got Chris James, David Wright. Some of these guys back here are really just minding their own business. But back up front, we've got Wade Hustad, who has decided to gap Jonathan Schwartz by 0.8 of a second. And looking at the pace here, we've lost about a second total as far as lap times from their best lap to their current lap in just 14 laps. So that's, I feel like that's fairly significant, Martin.
Yeah, it is, but everyone's dropping off at the. That's where you're saving your tires. I mean, if you're dropping off just a little bit, and then later on you're able to maintain a 31-second lap for a lot longer than these other guys, because if Wade Hustad starts falling down to a 33-second lap and you're still able to maintain a 31, maybe a low 32-second lap, you're going to be gaining time on him, and that's where saving the tires, that's where you're going to see it. I don't think, at least the Grand National cars, it wasn't so much a handling issue with the tire wear as much of just losing time, because you have to slow down to keep it on the track. So we'll see how these Cup cars go.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell that they're certainly loose. And some of these guys already have right side damage from maybe scraping the wall a little bit. We see a scuff mark there on the 07 Christopher as Chad Presnell dives inside and tries to take that position as they head off into turn 1. And in front of them, the almost famous paint scheme of Mike Springer at this point. You can hear Chad Presnell get loose, him working that throttle on exit there. But Mike Springer, Chad Presnell, Christopher, kind of rounding out our top 10 here. Good battle so far. Everyone's kind of minding their own business, but also aggressively taking the position that they think they can take. So that's good to see.
Well, then you have Thomas Harmon, who started 26th and all the way up to 14th. He continues to just pick off positions. Last time I looked at him, he was coming up on Chris James. He has since passed Chris James, Joshua Wakefield, and now William Edwards, his teammate. So his next victim will be Sidarius Jackson.
Yeah, but we were looking at, we were on board with Thomas Harmon now. Now, one of the problems being in Thomas Harmon's position is when you start kind of carving through this field as much as he had to. He kind of used up the good stuff on your tire faster than some of these other guys. So now it's almost, he might have to just really take it easy for a few laps before he can really battle and try to pass some of these cars that are ahead of him. Because obviously, it goes without saying that the further up the field you go, the more difficult it becomes to pass these cars. So, we'll see.
Yeah, that, and I think a strategy also changes. It has changed throughout this season as these guys have gotten more comfortable, as these races have begun to have longer green flag runs. Earlier on in the season, the runs weren't as long. We had a few races where they were, but last season and earlier this season, there was a probability, and especially in official races too, there's a probability that a caution is going to come out every 10, 20, 30 laps for sure.
Yeah, almost like
caution. We've seen a couple races where we've seen a number of races this season that have gone most of the race no yellow flag. Yeah. So I'm wondering if Chicagoland's going to be the same thing, or if one of these loose cars is going to get loose really late in the run, about lap 40, and someone goes sideways and brings out that yellow flag. So that you have to start thinking about that when you're saving tires. I mean, do you save tires? In official races, maybe you don't save tires because that caution is going to come out every 10 laps. In one of these Cup races now, saving tires might be the way. You have to think about that now, because the strategy's coming into play now. Gas and tires are much more important in our DRL races now because these races go mostly green.
Well, before I continue on with what you were saying, I just wanted to note real quick that Justin Bolton ended up staying in front of Wade Hustad and actually ended up putting a pretty considerable distance between he and Wade. So Bolton, one of the fastest cars on the racetrack, so it'll be very interesting to see what happens once he's able to kind of cycle around and get back with some of these leaders. He'll have to do what Thomas Harmon did.
Yeah.
But just to further your point, Martin, I know that last week at Sonoma in the Molnar Cup Series we had 0 cautions. The week before at Michigan we had 1 caution. This week, obviously, we've had 1 caution so far in the span of 3 weeks, and even in our Grand National Series, we've had, I think, 1 caution last night, no cautions at Iowa. So our top 2 series have just been absolutely lights out as far as racing the way that you need to race.
Yeah, just going back to Bolton, he's running his last lap was a 31.728. Hustad 31.869. So Bolton is actually running a faster lap, but not a ton faster. So it's not like he's burning his tires off doing it. Just moving a little slightly faster, and perhaps with a better line, is actually saving his tires better than Wade Hustad, for all we know.
Yeah. Time will tell. Again, it looks like we're about halfway through a pool run here on lap 24 of 133. Right now we're watching Chris Stover and Mark Johnson as they've been battling it out, swapping positions back and forth. At what point, Martin, especially 24 laps in, do you just say, you know what, take it. You can have it. I'll get you later.
I think it goes into your strategy, and I think, especially early on at this part in the race, there's no reason to burn your tires off fighting for a position that you could easily take back later, or that driver could lose later simply just by burning their tires off. Now it goes into strategy. Do you want to maybe make that guy run really hard to try to pass you? Especially if you have the outside line and a guy's trying to pass you on the inside, there's no reason you don't need to really let him by. I mean, he's going to be the one that has to work hard to get it. But maybe if you're on that low line, maybe you say, you know what, I'm not going to try to take this position right now. It's not worth it to burn my stuff off. I mean, it's only lap 26 out of 133, so.
Yeah, and we were watching now Jonathan Schwartz, Caden Honeycutt, Anthony Burrows. All of a sudden, they have become a pretty tight threesome here as they're battling it out now for position. As Anthony Burrows ended up catching these 2 guys. Bryson Hunt on pit road. Not sure if you would really consider that scheduled.
I don't see any. I don't think there's any. Yeah, I don't think he has any damage or anything. So.
Yeah,
coming in early.
Looking at his car here, giving it a quick look over. He does have a tiny bit of right side damage. You can see the crickle in the hood by the DC solar sign. Otherwise, I mean, since this isn't a points race for him, he might just be saying, you know what, enough is enough. I'm going to go get some fresh tires here because I can't imagine that these cars, with how rough they were handling on fresh tires, I can't imagine they get much better as the tire wear goes away. So I'm sure we'll see a couple guys short pit maybe, but I don't think we'll see many guys pit as early as Bryson Hunt just did.
Yeah, it looks like he backed out too, so maybe he just didn't want to race anymore. I don't know. I mean, some guys, like, they just don't want to run around, especially in a non-points race if they have no chance of competing really, and it's just a tough race in the car.
Now watching this battle here for second, third, and fourth. A really good battle as we are on board with Jonathan Schwartz, looking back to Caden Honeycutt, who. Caden Honeycutt, this has been a very impressive race for him. I don't really recall him doing any Cup races this year. I do recall his previous
Sonoma.
race.
I think he did Sonoma.
I know he did the Truck Series at Iowa, which is where he had a phenomenal. He ended up winning in a very dominant fashion almost. So obviously, we've got a couple of these newer drivers that are really coming in here and saying, I belong here. You guys, especially next year when they're eligible to win the championship, better watch out.
Yeah, it's going to be a dogfight next year to get in the championship. I mean, right now, I don't know if you have the point standings up, but there's some guys who right now are on the bottom of the points and are on that near that cutoff line, who next year are really gonna have to step up their game if they want to even be considered for the playoffs with all these new really good drivers coming in.
Now, speaking of new drivers, there's a driver that just came out of nowhere. Joseph Held in the 02 has caught Anthony Bills and Caden Honeycutt. He's trying to pass them both here. We haven't really mentioned his name much as he was in that gap. As we got a car in the grass there, up into traffic there. PJ O'Leary almost. Whew, that was close. Take a quick look here as we're going to drop these point standings. This is
O'Leary running that apron now through the tri-oval.
It almost looked like he maybe wanted to get out of the way of these leaders, but in doing so, he almost became our first yellow of the day here for the Chicagoland 200.
I know we were talking about that at some point, that it's like sometimes these lapped cars are too conservative. They try to get out of the way too much, and they actually end up getting in the way by doing that. It's like, just race your line, keep going. The leaders will get by you.
Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go in cockpit view here for Joseph Held. We're going to go in instant replay. In this battle that he was having, coming with Caden Honeycutt, coming off of turn 4, we're going to listen in on his car.
Wow, Chris Stouffer just fell back quite a bit, just as you were saying that.
Well, and I can see why, because Joseph, I was riding on board with doing that replay of Joseph Held because of just the incredibly loose he got. Now we're going to switch back here to Chris Stouffer as he's being passed now by Thomas Harmon. It doesn't look like he has any damage again, but a lot of these cars are going to have, they're really going to start seeing some handling issues. Lap 34 on these tires.
Well, as we said, Harmon's burning his stuff, chopping through this field, slicing through here, and all the way up to 11th now.
Yeah, all the way up to 11th, looking to get into the top 10 as he's trying to look past Jordan Gonzalez, who, again, he got loose off of that initial start that we had. Otherwise, he's been clean. Looking back here, you can see Thomas Harmon get so loose trying to get that bottom, that pass on the lowest line there, and you can just see he ends up losing that spot to Chris Stouffer. So now you finally make up all that ground. Now you just got to work at getting it all back again, just because of something that happened in a split second. Going back here with this kind of interesting battle that we had with Joseph Held, Caden Honeycutt, Anthony Burrows. We're not showing Wade Hustad, but he currently has a margin over second place of Jonathan Schwartz by 3.2 seconds. So Hustad definitely picking up where he left off last night. But you can, Martin, if you're paying attention, coming off these corners, these cars are really starting to step out. So I certainly expect some of these guys to maybe not wait until lap 50 to get some tires here.
Yeah, they're definitely wiggling that wheel, trying to keep it straight as they come off those turns.
We're watching Eric Johnson, Chad Presnell battle it out here. Those two silver and blue cars. I believe that was Chad Presnell trying to get past Eric Johnson. As Eric Johnson, he started, I believe it was 6th, and he is still maintaining that 6th spot. But these lap times now have fallen off over 2 seconds since the start of this race, Martin. So certainly look to see some guys pitting in a couple laps for sure. Mike Springer has decided to join this battle for 6th and 7th.
Yeah, Mike Springer just been slowly creeping along. Actually, he's been hanging out there the whole time, but haven't really been mentioning his name besides that call out for his paint scheme again.
Yeah, right? Well, that paint scheme is just a thing of beauty. Dropping back here to that battle again with Thomas Harmon, Chris Stouffer, Jordan Gonzalez. They've kind of been running that same formation there for the last, it seems, 5 or 10 laps. As Thomas Harmon's just inside of the 07 there on exit. It's so close. These guys are so good, Martin. And watching these guys side by side, it's incredible. Thomas Harmon gives Chris Stoker a lot of room there on the inside. When you do that, you have to actually use a little bit more right side tire, trying to keep it all the way down where Thomas Harmon was there on exit. So again, Thomas Harmon having to work extra hard here as he carves through the field, but it doesn't really seem to be slowing him down all that much, as he's still aggressively trying to pass people for position.
Well, you mentioned giving him room, and it's like that's something you can do when you're passing there, is come up and make it a lot closer, so that guy on the outside might get a little scared. Mm-hmm. Not come up and actually get in his path, or even, you know, do a slide jump or anything, but you just you get up there that guy who's hanging on the wall is like, I don't know, mm-hmm. and then might back out, and now you've got the position easily. And I know I did that a few times last night when I was passing people here at Chicagoland, is that I just kind of, you know, I'm making sure I'm not going to hit them. I'm not trying to bump them or be dirty, but it's just like kind of get up there, make them know you're there. Yeah, he kind of did the same. He's, you know, right there. You just saw it do it to Jordan Gonzalez there, where it's like kind of, you know, got as close as he could to Jordan, and now, you know, Gonzalez was like, I'm going to have to back off now because I don't feel comfortable.
Now we're starting to see some of the guys that are kind of on the tail end of the lead lap here start to make these pit stops. But still, watching these are great battles with.
Joshua Wakefield wiped out coming into the pit road, and so he had to get towed.
We saw that last night. We saw that last night. And one thing I will tell you, if we get an opportunity, I almost want to follow a car off a pit road, is the apron. iRacing installed a new rule where you have to. It's not suggested. You absolutely have to exit on the backstretch of most of the oval racing, most of the oval tracks here. And that apron here at Chicagoland is slick as ice. It really is. I mean, going around there in third gear is almost a struggle.
I hear you say that. I didn't think it was a struggle though. I know a lot of guys have been talking about that. It's like I'll go through those. I don't know. I go through those pit exits now, and I just get rip roaring fast going out of those.
It was just something that I noticed when I was testing just in this car at this track. I just noticed that apron here at Chicagoland is very, very slick. So it's possible that maybe a guy tries to be a little aggressive coming out, as Mike Springer is one of our first lead lap cars here to pit. You know, one of these guys might try to be a little bit aggressive, maybe slide, try to chase their car so they don't spin and end up getting a black flag because their tires hit that white line. So, you know,
yeah,
it's obviously it probably won't happen, but it's just something that you have to keep in mind here as we're looking as Joseph Held, Caden Honeycutt, Mike Springer, William Edward, Justin Bolton, all those guys have decided that 46 laps is more than enough on these tires here. And I'm actually going to follow along with Mike Springer as he exits. You can hear his fresh tires just try to grip. He's definitely getting a little squirrely here. He gets past those cones and punches it. So these drivers are certainly aware of the fact that that apron can wreak a little havoc here. As Wade Hustad has decided to pit now, Martin. Now that leaves Anthony Burrows, Jonathan Schwartz, Eric Johnson, Chad Presnell, and Mark Johnson. Those are now your new top 5.
Ooh, Justin Bolton blowing right past her. I thought maybe Jonathan Schwartz would come with Anthony Burrows, but he was not allowed to because that Justin Bolton went past him. So I think Jonathan Schwartz will maybe come in next lap. Eric Johnson comes sliding in. Yeah, he comes in a little too hot.
Ooh.
He's going to hit that inside wall. He's going to cause a little damage, and that's going to really hurt his race.
We're going to watch. We were just talking about him at the beginning of the race, just not being able to do the whole thing here, put a full race together. And he did exactly what Clay Phillips did in last night's race. So some of the little finer details of Chicagoland Speedway are proven a little bit difficult for some of these drivers to overcome is Eric Johnson, again, with that front-end damage. Last week at Sonoma, we saw a lot of beat-up race cars finish the race in pretty decent condition. They finished the race pretty high in the running order considering how much damage they had. Here, you definitely can't take that much damage and still be competitive.
So that leaves Mark Johnson. Yeah, Mark Johnson's probably the last one who hasn't pit.
There's four.
Maybe Jordan Gonzalez.
Yeah, Mark Johnson, Jordan Gonzalez, Aaron James, and Chris James. Those are your top four currently have not. And it looks like Wade Hustad will regain the lead once those guys pit, and he'll actually have Joseph Held, who I'm pretty sure he was fifth when he came into pit, and now he will come out second, passing Anthony Burrows, Caden Honeycutt, and Jonathan Schwartz.
Yeah, I wonder how long Mark Johnson. Well, Aaron James is going to pit. But I'm wondering how long Mark Johnson is going to try to hang out there and wait for that, maybe hope for that yellow flag. But he is 2 to 3 seconds slower than the cars with fresh tires. Yeah. Watching Aaron James come in.
Now, it's funny because in recent weeks we've seen so many of these races, play into the hands of people that kind of understand the strategy. And we've seen some guys blow some races because they didn't maybe they didn't understand that staying out a lap or two too long can end up costing you seconds on the racetrack because you're running so much slower than the guy who has those fresh tires.
And here goes Mark Johnson down pit road now. And it looks like Gonzalez is going to stay out, get some points for leading a lap.
Yeah, looking at the points here, Jordan Gonzalez is currently number 16, so that extra point that you get for leading a lap here can go a long way as he is trying to stay ahead of John Theodore. David Wellborn, who is actually missing tonight's race due to illness, so we hope that he gets better.
Today I was looking forward to and who's in the grass there? I want to say it's going to probably be John Mullins. Yep, that's John Mullins. Same paint as Mike Springer, but I was figured Mike Springer wasn't in the grass.
That is a heavy amount of damage. Let's go look at a replay there. It looks like it's going to be
he got loose.
It's going to be a situation where he gets loose coming off of turn 2, Martin. Yep, you called it.
He flipped over. He hit the little road there, and that flipped him over. Wow.
We're on board with John Mullins here. He does a great. Hit
that access road.
Wow, jeez, Lord have mercy. He did a great job though, John Mullins. He kind of sacrificed his race car to make sure he didn't, overcorrect and come back up into traffic. So, a great.
Yeah, I didn't see him hit the wall. Yeah, I didn't see him hit the wall, so I was wondering where the damage was. And the damage comes from him actually flipping over.
A great piece of driving by. A great piece of driving by him to stay out of the path of. Out of the path of the cars that were coming on track now, as Jordan Gonzalez, who was the leader, now he's going to actually come. Do you remember he was running in that 10th or 11th position, but because he stayed out so long, look at Jordan Gonzalez now as he's going to come out in 20th position, 1 lap down. So Jordan Gonzalez just staying out that extra couple laps there. You can see how much time he lost. It's almost like he lost a half of a lap to the leader, Mr. Wade Hustad.
Well, I was talking about with the point standings that I was looking forward to this race being a tough battle between Jordan Gonzalez and John Theodore, because really that's the guy I think is going to slip in and really battle Jordan Gonzalez and Joshua Wakefield for position on that bottom is going to be John Theodore. And we look at 17th, 18th, and 19th on the standings. None of those guys are in this race. Hallis, Theodore, and Wellborn all missing this race, and Sam Niederhelm in 20th is the only one, and he's about 100 points behind Jordan Gonzalez.
He's getting to that point. I mean, Sam Niederhelm, he started a little bit later in the season, and obviously certainly he has a lot of ground to make up to Jordan Gonzalez, but another name I'm looking at is Brandon Dalton. He's kind of been absent the last few weeks, so he's another driver that could start to kind of drop out, which actually would move David Wellborn up and John Theodore up, assuming Dalton eventually falls out if he doesn't kind of pick up his participation here. Musil, he's another one who is not here tonight, so a couple drivers.
Yeah, that's been.
Yeah,
that's something I've been kind of looking at. That is kind of a little disappointing. Is that you're starting to get this kind of mid-season lull. Maybe, hopefully, is all it is. Or you got some drivers just like, I'm kind of getting bored. And hopefully that's not the case, because we got so many new good drivers coming in, but they're not going to be eligible for the playoffs. And if all these guys who actually are eligible for playoffs don't bother showing up, I mean, it's like, come on.
Right. Well, and again, I think now I'm going to show a graphic, Martin, that, I mean, if David Wellborn's not watching the broadcast, he's probably going to wake up from a sleep, because this is his favorite track. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the next race that we run. Oh, Daytona! I only flashed it for a second, Martin. I'm only flashing it one more time. Whoop. Okay, I think that will definitely up the participation for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have a full field for that, but
I don't want to.
Of course, there's a lot of people that probably having real life things going on that just take them away right now, and it is kind of the midsummer, coming around 4th of July weekend. We do have next week off, so hopefully these guys don't miss too many races and are able to show up and aren't giving up on their seasons or anything, because these guys are still playoff drivers. Go to the playoffs, see what you can do there.
Yeah, the playoffs are going to be obviously remarkable. We have such a good cast of guys here, and some of even these new guys that, just because they're not going to be fighting for the championship per se, they can still run these chase races. So there's going to be some of these new guys like maybe Justin Bolton, some of these, Michael Morley, when he's eligible to race with us because of our entry form deal, he'll be probably with us for Daytona. I imagine that some of these guys could probably start stealing wins from some of our championship.
Yeah, they're gonna
drivers.
be stealing. Yeah, that's gonna be the thing with the playoffs. We've had some drivers already talking about it right now. Is that people are complaining that these Cup guys come down to the Truck Series and the Grand National Series and steal wins, right? And that takes away those points for that win from a guy that's running for points. Well, that's what's going to happen in the playoffs here. I think you're going to see a Joseph Helt or an Eli Hinton or Justin Bolton or whatever get a win, when at that point the win doesn't really help their case that much, because they're already out of the playoffs.
They're just out there to prove that they know what they're doing.
It's going to spoil it. Yeah, but a win's a win, though. I mean, you want to win no matter what, and it's going to spoil It's going to spoil it for some people. It's going to be like, I needed that win. I needed those points to catch, so and so.
Well, you should have passed.
That's racing. That's how it works. I mean, it's a new kind of thing. It's a new kind of concept. I mean, it's not really that new anymore. It's been how many years in NASCAR they've had the playoff, the chase and all that.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain if it's not more than a decade, it's at least approaching.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
That decade mark there.
So it's. So you'll still have those people out there that I remember a few years ago they asked Tony Stewart, it's like, oh, well, if you were doing the old system, he kind of cut them off right there. It's like, but we're not. That's not what we're running anymore. So you have to run with what you're running.
Right. Now,
well, the rules back then, you'd be the champion. It's like, well, yeah, but that's not what the rules are right now.
Yeah, no, that's my favorite thing when people decide to try to compare who would have been this if this would have happened or whatever. It's like, well, it didn't. So
it's interesting. It's interesting to see, like, oh, okay, how does the system change that result? But to ask a driver and say, oh, well, how do you feel about that? It's like, well, does it matter really how I feel about it?
Right.
Because it's not like the rules changed suddenly in the middle of the season. Like, whoa, I didn't know I had to, win some races, or you had to race a little bit differently than just going 36 races, endurance, consistent. I mean, you could finish second every race or whatever and be the champion. It's like, no, you gotta, at least in NASCAR, you gotta win Homestead to be the champion. And now I think there's some things I think they still need to tweak with that playoff system, and I think we might actually be tweaking that playoff system in our own league and making it more the way it should be in real life. Where I think we're gonna cut it down. I mean, we're gonna have 16 drivers. Maybe in the future we cut it down to 12 drivers to make it a little bit more of an exclusive thing. Who knows? We'll see. But that cut it down to 16 drivers, and then those final 10 races, it's just a straight point shot the rest of the way. We're not gonna make at least this is what I think it should be, is that Homestead shouldn't be a winner takes all. Because really, should the most consistent... I mean, if Anthony Burrows goes in and is leading going into Homestead, and then he gets wrecked by a lapped car, is that really? Anthony Burrows shouldn't be the champion because he got blown up in one race?
Right. Yeah, I mean,
racing's not football. It's not this. I mean, that's what they're trying to do in NASCAR. It's trying to make Homestead like the Super Bowl. Which is kind of strange that Homestead would be that too. It's like, what is Homestead really? Why, let's make the Super Bowl Homestead. It's like they always talk about how like the Super Bowl of NASCAR is Daytona, the Daytona 500, which is the first race of the season.
Well, just imagine if it was the last, the amount of changes that we'd have in the championship. Now, since we've been conversing here, we've seen a couple moves up here. A few minutes ago, we were watching Jonathan Schwartz and Caden Honeycutt were in the midst of some pretty thick lap traffic here.
Yeah,
and
just kind of.
Anthony Burrows has just passed Joseph Held for second, and he set his sights on Wade Hustad. But Wade Hustad, again, as we look back, taking a look at him, again, he's
just ridiculous.
He's one of the fastest cars on the racetrack right now. Mark Johnson is running a little bit faster than he is currently, and Justin Bolton, and Mark Johnson also, to note, has 5-lap fresher tires, but Justin Bolton is now just about ready to climb his way into the top 10. Man, does he want to see a caution.
Well, there you go. I mean, you look at Justin Bolton technically started 25th or qualified 25th.
Yeah, he started
26th. But I would say I would flip those around. Bolton was technically last because he actually had to go in for that black flag. And he's up to 11th. Thomas Harmon, the guy that started on the last row with him, all the way up to 8th.
Yes.
So those guys, driving like gangbusters and have put together some awesome racing. Otherwise, I'm looking at the top. You look at those top 11, all the guys on the lead lap. Chad Presnall and Mark Johnson, the only other guys outside the top 10 that have slipped in to the top 10. I mean, otherwise, Eric Johnson, he's fallen out. He started 6th. He's now a lap down. Jordan Gonzalez, 9th, a lap down. William Edwards, 10th, a lap down.
He had that damage when sliding. It's very funny that, Justin Bolton is going to take this 3 wide. Not quite. Thought about it, though, as he was going to pass Chris Stouffer and then set his sights on Mark Johnson. So that will put Justin Bolton in the top 10 for the first time in Dynasty Racing League career here. Certainly won't be the last, and a good race by him. A good race by Thomas Harmon, also impressive here. Now you look at the fact that this race has gone green for 72 laps. That definitely benefits a lot of other drivers versus because you can tell, like, the last couple of weeks, we've had a different set of contenders outside of course, Anthony Burrows and Wade Hustad. But behind them, it seems like we've had a whole different cast of top 10 guys just because of the different type of racing that we've had the last few weeks. So, because like at Michigan, we saw John Theodore. He was well within almost, knocking on a top 5 until I believe, I think he had a pit road situation, John Theodore did. But either way, it's impressive to see some of these guys just really, they come on pretty strong when it's, when you have the type of race that goes green for a while. But with 74 laps down of 133, the DRL TV is going to take a little bit of a commercial break here. When we come back, we will watch more green flag pit stops, hopefully, and we'll bring you to the final stages of this race.
Truex on the outside, contact made. 56 slides it at a 4. Who's going to be at the stripe? Dead even, give it to Ryan Truex. Truex is your winner over Tandy.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to DRL TV, as we have lap 79 of 133 so far, as Wade Hustad has led just about most of these laps. Very similar story to last night's race, but tonight we are the Chicagoland 200 for the Molnar Automotive Cup Series, reaching the final stages of this race, and in just a few laps I'm certain that these guys are going to cut the difference in half of the of this final stint here, and I'm sure we'll be seeing some green flag pit stops here in just a little bit.
Yeah, Wade Hustad is running 32.2 seconds, so he's getting close to that point where the fall off had gotten to. Yeah, about time for a green flag stop.
These guys have anywhere between 30 and 33 laps of tire wear, and again, we saw people pitting around lap like 46, I believe, last time. So again, we're going to see some of these guys. A lot of these guys are going to be pitting as if they are going to probably be going green the rest of the way. So you kind of want to cut that race in half here, as it stands right now, Chris Stouffer being the last car on the lead lap in 11th spot. And again, just another impressive performance as the Dynasty Racing League is showing that we know how to race pretty well, as we so far have 0 cautions here at Chicagoland Speedway, which isn't normally the type of track where you see no cautions. It's kind of a, it's kind of one of those places that promotes the side-by-side racing, contact with the outside wall, the cars spinning, that sort of thing. So a great job by the drivers. But now, we're going to highlight a couple drivers that maybe want to see a caution. Eric Johnson being one of them, so he can get some of that damage fixed. Going up here, we have Justin Bolton, who is now passing Thomas Harmon, as both of those guys started last and dead last. Justin Bolton, he's another guy that wants to kind of get caught up with the leaders here and see if he can't, get himself a top 5, as he sets his sights on Mike Springer in the 7th spot. But he and Thomas Harmon giving it a good battle currently. Then Anthony Burrows, who is 5 seconds behind, but running lap times that are pretty comparable with Wade Hustad right now. So again, as much as these guys would just love to get caught back up and everything, it's been a great race so far, Martin.
Yeah, it has. I mean, it's going to be a lot of strategy going here. Not sure Wade Hustad's going to work with me on my prediction that we're not going to have only 4 cars on the lead lap, but
yeah, I know.
Way it's going,
I know you said that with such confidence too.
Yeah, but the way it's going, yeah. I mean, right now Chris Stouffer is 29 seconds behind the leader, what's a lap? I mean, the lap here is 30, you know, Hustad's going about 30, 33 seconds on a lap. I mean, he's going to be catching up to Stouffer pretty soon.
Yeah. We're looking here at Mr. Wade Hustad, and again...
Yeah, she is. I mean, you can see them. You can see Sam Niederhelm and then Chris Stouffer in front of him. So...
Yep, looking outside of the window here for Mr. Wade Hustad. If you can kind of pay attention to what his right foot is incredibly busy, as you can hear him rolling through the center of these corners here. But he really plays with that throttle, making sure that he can maximize his exit speed without, you know, destroying the outside wall, of course. And we've also seen a pretty decent trend where a lot of these cars, especially at this point in a green flag run, are getting really, really loose. And it seems like Wade Hustad is definitely keeping his car under control. Obviously, one of the reasons why he is leading this race by almost 5 seconds. Looking behind here, Anthony Burrows, again, last week's winner, giving him his 6th win of the season. Now, Martin, I ask you this as very honestly, if Anthony Burrows gets another win or two before we start these playoffs, and maybe the likes of Wade Hustad or whatever, maybe they don't get another win, they just kind of maintain what they have currently. Is that difference, knowing how competitive Anthony Burrows is that difference in points when you start that playoff, is that going to be almost too much to overcome even right away?
Yeah, that 18 points, I mean, he's got a 6-point advantage, or he's going to have a 12-point advantage over Wade Hustad, but Hustad's going to win this race, or it looks like he's going to win this race as it is. So, I mean, both Hustad and Short's going to be starting 9 points behind Burrows. It's going to make it tight. I think it's going to, you know, Burrows is obviously going to have the advantage, as he should, winning, you know, the most races in the season. And that's why you give the bonus points out for the playoffs, so you're not just resetting and thinking it like, well, why'd you even bother winning those races? But, yeah, it's going to be tough to get past Anthony Burrows, but I think we have a group of drivers that can definitely do it. I mean, we're seeing Wade Hustad just run away with this race. It's not even close right now. Burrows is 4.5 seconds behind him. I mean,
well, and Wade Hustad, I mean, he brought something to Chicagoland. He brought some knowledge here that, you know, he obviously was very comfortable with, because when you run a Grand National Series race, as we do every Monday, you have X amount of races you can run each season, as it looks like we will see Wade Hustad come here on pit road. And a very excellent entry by Mr. Wade Hustad here, as he will go down all the way to that first pit stall. After a green flag run, I mean, how slow does it seem like you're going on pit road? It seems like you're almost at a standstill.
Well, we're talking about Wade Hustad and, you know, running Grand National races, only having a few races, you know, a certain number of races you can actually run down at that level. And there are some people are like that. These Cup drivers come down, they win those races, and they come down and dominate those races. As Wade Hustad, I mean, I don't have it right up in front of me, but he's won probably 6, 7, 8 races between Grand National and the trucks. Because when he comes down there, he's just the fastest car out there. That's just how it is, and, you know, it's a little bit of a bummer when you're that guy that's in second place and you're running for points and you can't catch Wade Hustad. But I'm looking at this race right now. Anthony Burrows is 4 seconds behind Wade Hustad in the Cup Series, and we had this. I mean, we sort of had this sometimes last year, where it was a 2-man race almost, where it was Anthony Burrows, Eric Wolf would just be, you know, ahead above everyone else in terms of talent and speed. And now this year, you know, there's Anthony Burrows, there's Eric Wolf, and there's Wade Hustad, and it's like, where is the separation? I mean, is there a huge difference? I mean, do we have
certainly a lot more parity for sure? This season as opposed to last season, where it was kind of either one guy was going to win or it was the other. Again, bringing up these point standings. 17. You know, this is going to be our 17th race. I don't think we're going to add a new driver tonight, but we've got 8 drivers that have won this season. Three of them have obviously won multiple races, but that's incredible. I mean, that's something, you know, that's the type of parity that you may not even see in the professional stock car series such as NASCAR. So,
well, we're talking. I mean, I was just watching Sonoma in real life at NASCAR, and they were talking to what was his name? 14. Out of my mind. I can't remember his name now, but it's like they were talking about how like Holt. Well, he won Michigan and Martinsville. Got an idea? Slipped my mind. But they were talking about how it's like, oh, you right now you kind of have those big three. You had the big three up there, right? You got Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick and Martin Truex. It's like, well, do we start counting? It's really slipped my mind. I mean, he's one of the great characters of NASCAR.
Is it Clinton Boyer?
Yeah, Clint Boyer. There it is.
There.
I'm saying, it's like, oh, should we talk about you in that conversation and like make it a top four? And that's right now. I look at our league right now, where we are so far this season, and you got that top three: Anthony Burroughs, Schwartz, and Husted. They've all got multiple wins. And then I would include Eric Wolff in there, but Eric Wolff again has been quite inconsistent of when he can actually show up, and just probably real life has become more busy for him.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be, you know, right now we kind of do have a top, you know, we have a big three almost that you expect to be up there. You expect to see Jonathan Schwartz, Wade Husted, Anthony Burroughs winning these races now, right? And going into next season, it's like that's where it's going to be really awesome if all these guys that are already here have participated a lot this season, come back, participate a lot next season, and all these new drivers we've gotten in the last month and a half. You know, Eli Hinton, Justin Levine, Mark Johnson, Justin Bolton, Joseph Helt, all those guys come back next season and race a full schedule. It's gonna be a nasty dogfight in the playoffs, getting into the playoffs and stuff. It's gonna be awesome.
And let's not mention that people, you know, I can think of a couple examples of drivers, you know, without pointing them out or singling them out. There's some drivers at the beginning of the year that couldn't turn a lap without it seemed like getting in the way. They were awful. No offense. But now, you know, those same drivers are all of a sudden, you know, knocking out top 10s. They're doing well in the Cup Series, even if they don't run here for points. I mean, so not only are we having these drivers come in that are already competitive, some of our mid-tier talent is also continuing to improve. So you think...
Yeah, you have some of those guys... Yeah, sorry. Well, you have some of those guys like the mid-tier talent. Some of them are mid-tier talent within the Cup Series. They're running for points. And then you have other guys that are points guys. And, you know, one of them I'm looking right now in that bright green 71 is Cydarius Jackson, who runs points down in the trucks. And early in the season struggled in both the Grand National and the Cup to kind of stay out of the way. And now is kind of coming to his own. He seems to qualify mid-pack almost every time now up in the Cup Series when he runs up here. He started 13th today. He's running 18th. Having a respectable race. He's 2 laps down, but hasn't caused any issues.
Yeah.
And that's how the season's changed. I think some of those guys that were a little rough earlier on have kind of settled down. They've figured out where their groove is, where they can compete, where they're going to just run. This is where I'm going to finish. And I'm going to race a few of those guys around me, but I'm not going to try to drive out of my... drive over my head.
Well, and I mean, you know, there's guys like I do recall Cydarius Jackson up until having an incident at Sears Point. He was well within the top 10, and that's one of the hardest tracks that we go to, Martin. So definitely, it's awesome to see the roster that we have here. And you know, after Chicagoland, we will certainly go to Daytona. But after Daytona, we're going to be traveling to we're going to be traveling to such a weird variety of venues. We have Kentucky, and then we go to New Hampshire, then Pocono, then Watkins Glen, back to Michigan, and then back to a short track at Bristol. So we're going to see a lot of different talent here in the next 2 months, and it's going to be great to watch. As for this race, though, Wade Husted again taking over that lead now as Jonathan Schwartz has finally decided to pit. Electing to stay out a little bit longer, maybe have those fresher tires for this last 30 laps here. But Anthony Burroughs has knocked into that lead that Husted had by just a second or two, as now that 5-second gap is now shrunk down to 3 seconds. But those two drivers have put a huge interval between them. Caden Honeycutt in 3rd and Joseph Held in 4th.
Yeah.
But look who's in 5th all of a sudden.
Justin Bolton.
Yeah, running a great race, and as a new driver, because I was a new driver at one point in this league, obviously we all were. One thing that there's actually a couple races I ran earlier in the year here in the Cup Series. I actually started in the back at Atlanta, and I had pretty fast times and all that stuff. But it actually benefited me a little bit to kind of start in the back and kind of have to fight my way through the field, because you get a gauge of who does what and who you can race in a certain way. So this is kind of a welcome to the league race here for Justin Bolton. As you know, next week at Daytona won't really tell you much, as everyone is going to be running the same car. It's good. They're just going to be pushing each other around a giant track. So this is a good race. This is a good opportunity for him to pass some of these guys, see what he can do, get acclimated with the Dynasty Racing League, see what we're all about, and as all of our new drivers have, they've come in, and a couple of them noted that they're really surprised with just how well our racing is. It's so much different from some of the official racing that you see in iRacing. Thank God.
Yeah. Well, going back to we're having a bunch of different races coming up, obviously in the second half of the season, and the one I'm looking forward to the throwback race at Darlington, because that one last year, we're speaking about Sidarius Jackson, there's some of these mid-tier guys that have had some good showings. Believe me, I was one of those mid-tier guys. I'm still one of those mid-tier guys, and last season finished 4th at Darlington. That's my best finish in DRL, and that was a race where it's like people, those faster cars are banging the wall, knocking themselves out of the race because no one could figure out that track, and it was just a survival race. And it's going to be interesting to see how the league has changed, like if this top tier of drivers, which I don't know where that line is either of these top tier, because I'm looking at these names and it's like I can go almost down 15 drivers, and it seems like those are top tier kind of guys, or that at one point were top tier guys, and maybe now they've kind of slipped into a second tier, and there's now a little bit higher tier now. But how is Darlington going to run? Is it going to be only 4 laps or 4 cars finishing on the lead lap, and everyone else is wrecked out, and you have a guy like me finishing 4th place, and then, and so Darlington's the one I'm looking forward to see, like if someone has a surprise race there who figures out that track and can survive.
Well, and because of the variety, each driver here has its own niche. I'm pretty good at some of the mile and a half I go to, and I was really good at Iowa. I was one of the only trucks in the Winona Road Truck Series that was able to hold the bottom the entire green flag run that we had, and also gain positions. So each driver kind of has their own thing that they're good at, and as we go to this huge variety of drivers, it's not going to be just Anthony Burroughs leading them all. It's going to be, like last week, we saw Kean Howell absolutely dominate the road course race. It's possible he'll do that again at Watkins Glen. Some of these guys that are great at like a weird flat track like New Hampshire. Jonathan Schwartz has proven that he's really good for the high bike racetracks that we'll go to, like Bristol. So, to say that we just have 1 or 2 good drivers or dominant drivers now, it's honestly just a lie these days, as we have 10 to 12 to 15 drivers that can win on any given race at any given track, it seems like.
Yeah, there's definitely, the names I go through and I kind of see, and it's like, I consider those top tier guys, and now that top tier is so large that maybe there's a couple tiers developing within that top tier actually. And that's where it's like right now I kind of look at it like a Wade Hustad and Anthony Burroughs, and maybe include Jonathan Schwartz in there. Schwartz does have 3 wins and 2 close wins. That's your, like, maybe that's your top tier, and maybe include Eric Wolf, and I'm gonna maybe bump Eric Wolf into that second tier now, just because he isn't here every week, but when he is here, he can be. But it's gonna be, I'm looking so forward. I mean, we still have so many races left in this season already, that even by the time we get to next season, we're gonna know who's gonna be those guys. And we've had almost like 3 or 4 races with guys like Caden Honeycutt and Joseph Helt, and some of these newer guys, and we already know that's like, hey, those guys are going to be, if they show up week in, week out, and they race, they're going to be up there too. So, but I think the 2019 season is going to be, I mean, this season's already been really great, and next season's shaping up to be even, a step up from this. So it's going to be nuts.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely looking forward to it. But as far as this race is concerned, Martin, we've got about 20 laps here. Excuse me.
Yeah.
We have yet to have a caution this week in the Dynasty Racing League. I assure you that will change tomorrow at Gateway in the Winona Road Truck Series, as that's what the Truck Series does. We race a little bit harder than everyone else because the competition is so close. The trucks are so close. It's like riding a go-kart. So it's hard to get separation from these guys.
Gateway's a goofy track. I mean, it's got that weird.
Yes, it is.
I don't know which turn that is. The thing is, I race it, and once I race a couple laps on it, I know which one is which. But it's like I can't think of it right now. Which turn is which? Where that weird backward hairpin, basically, where so you got, you're turning. You're not just turning what would be 180, but you're going like doing a 190, 200 almost, kind of going back in on itself.
Turn 1 and 2, it'll be very interesting tomorrow. But you know what, Martin? If I don't get this in now, we're not going to get it in at all. So I'm going to go ahead and, maybe rev it up here in a second. What do you think, buddy?
Yeah, let's rev it up. I mean,
before Wade Hustad,
before
Wade Hustad doesn't allow me the opportunity here, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to rev it up. Always a good time when we rev it up here, ladies and gentlemen, on DRL TV. Now, looking back, we saw some good battles there back kind of by Aaron James, and even though he's, in 18th place, a couple laps down, he's definitely very racy today, as he's kind of around that same area as Thomas Harmon, Chris James. Very close battles there. As right now, again, after 119 laps of green flag racing, as you can expect, we are a little spread out. It looks like Jonathan Schwartz is now just past Joseph Held. We're actually going to hit a replay on that. We are on board with Joseph Held entering turn 3 and 4 as his battle for 4th spot. Jonathan Schwartz, it looks like he is just going to power by on the outside. Because we've seen Joseph Held really struggle with the setup that has been brought here today. And by struggle, I mean he's just been really, really noticeably loose. One of the more noticeably loose cars that I've seen. But this position, this battle for 3rd, 4th, and 5th here has really started to heat up as Jonathan Schwartz has now passed them both. And remember, Martin, he pitted later than everyone else. He actually has 10-lap newer tires than Anthony Burroughs, Wade Hustad, but he's 12 seconds back. Kind of a kind of a situation where you're fast now, but you're also kind of a little too far behind to really do anything. Besides, obviously, gain a great spot here in the 3rd position, but
yeah, Wade Hustad he's securing his spot in that. I mean, they're the top 3. I mean, that's Burroughs, Schwartz, and Hustad. I mean, they're the guys that I'm looking at going into the playoffs, dominating, and that's where, if you're making your bets on the playoffs, one of those 3 guys is going to be your champion.
Well, and now one of the drivers that we always forget to mention as far as this competitive is Mike Springer. I mean, he did well at Michigan. He's doing well tonight, even with the damage he has to his right front. He's definitely inside the top 10. And even at a place like Sears Point, he was a top 5 race. He was a top 5 car at Sears Point, and ended up finishing 4th ahead of Wade Hustad. And you know, we just have a whole lot of drivers here. All of them have incredible talent. So obviously that translates to great races that we have, and it makes broadcasting here on DRL TV all that much easier, Martin. Is all I really have to do is kind of point the camera at some place on the track, and you know there's going to be good racing there.
You know what I'm noticing about the top 20 here in our league is that there are no Toyotas. Toyota doesn't seem like a very popular car on iRacing.
Yeah, that is weird, isn't it?
Chevys and Fords.
Chevys, yeah, I personally run a Ford myself. Why? Because Mark Martin ran one back in the day, so that's pretty much it. But yeah, no, great run here by Justin Bolton. Again, I'm sure he wished he would have gotten some sort of, you know, caution here, but a 7th place here is still pretty decent. Again, being new to the league, maybe it's possible that he didn't know that there was supposed to be a queue time put down, as I'm sure that's not something that a lot of other leagues emphasize. So there'll be a few little growing pains here and there, of course, but for Justin Bolton, a great run for him. Looking up here at Joseph Held, a great top 5 position for him so far. Caden Honeycutt, who's been in the top 5 the entire race. Again, I'd have to look. I'm not exactly sure how many races he's run with us here in the DRL. I know he's been on the roster for a while, but actually getting into these races here and running them, I can't really speak to exactly how many races that is, but I know in the last 2 races that he's run, one in the Winona Road Truck Series, one here today. I mean, he came with a victory last week in Iowa, and today running well from the top 5 all day. So a great run by him. And then you've got your big 3 up here trying to close out this race. Wade Hustad, Anthony Burrows, Jonathan Schwartz. Jonathan Schwartz has gained about a second since we last spoke about him. That's definitely not going to be enough because he's still 7 seconds behind Anthony Burrows. If you add another 3.5 seconds to that, that gives him almost 11 seconds behind Wade Hustad. So Jonathan Schwartz not quite going to have enough time to catch those top 2 drivers, or even Anthony Burrows most likely. But a great race tonight. I do feel for Eric Johnson, though, having that pit road miscue, kind of the same thing that happened to Clay Phillips again last night, just reiterating that.
Him and Joshua Wakefield did that, and Wakefield still on pit road 28 laps down.
Mm-hmm. Now, we even saw it in last night's race. Some of these guys, they get a little bit of damage early on, and all of a sudden you just have to fight through the whole race with that damage because you didn't have an opportunity to come in and fix it. Now, with 5 laps to go here, we're going to keep our eyes on Wade Hustad, our race leader, of course, unless there is a good battle for position behind him. But right now, Wade Hustad, we're just going to kind of sit here with our jaws dropped and watch in awe as Wade Hustad just continues his dominance this week at Chicagoland Speedway. And it's funny because you look at his best lap. This is which is all it is your fastest lap that you've had in this session here. He's not even one of the. I don't even think he's in the top 5 as far as the fastest lap goes. But it's all about consistency here at Chicagoland, especially being able to adapt to the ever-changing grip level that you have in your tires. He's also, one thing I've been noticing about Wade Hustad is he has a weird exit to turn 2. He comes in he exits really shallow. Which is something that you don't see all drivers doing. We've seen other drivers kind of come all the way out to the wall, and that's where a lot of them were losing their rear ends tonight. So, just a great race by him, and we're on board with him right now, and it's just great to see, and you can even hear kind of what he's doing in the race car. So, a great run by Wade Hustad.
I wonder if he's backing off just a little bit, or if Anthony Burrows is trying to pick it up here, because Burrows is cutting into the lead a little bit. It's about into 2.9 seconds, but, you know, obviously he's not going to be able to make up that time in the next lap or two, but I'm not sure if Hustad is taking it a little easy. He's still hitting 200 going into the turns, dropping down to 145 midway through the turn, and then getting back on the gas. I'm wondering if Burrows is... Yeah, Burrows is just going a little bit faster.
Yeah, he's
like faster, but
reeled him in just a little bit, but again, with 1 lap to go here at the Chicagoland 200, 3 seconds is kind of a little bit too much to overcome, as Wade Hustad has been perfect all week, and I can't imagine a situation where he completely loses his mind on this last lap here. And that is exactly what Wade Hustad is going to need. This is going to give him another win, as we just flash the points here real quick. It's going to give him another win and kind of bump him up along with Jonathan Schwartz, as we again start to pay more and more attention to the playoff implications that each of these races have. So as Wade Hustad coming out of turn 4, Martin, will cross the start-finish line as today's winner, getting points for maybe having 0 X's, getting points for leading the most laps.
There he goes, sliding through. Whoa!
Well, maybe not 0
X's.
X's.
To do that, but it kind of damages that car. He likes to do that little slide job right after getting across the start-finish line.
And again, a great showing by our newest driver, Justin Bolton. And again, even next week, it's possible that we see 3 or 4 of new faces as we continue to add more and more guys here to the Dynasty Racing League. So a great run by Justin Bolton, who started a whole lap down, ends up getting a top 10. But our top 5 is going to be Wade Hustad, Anthony Burrows, Jonathan Schwartz, who fought back on those newer tires, kind of had a little bit different strategy than everyone else, and ended up working out for him as he got that third position. Caden Honeycutt with a great top 5, and Joseph Held.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Justin Bolton finishing 7th and Thomas Harmon finishing 8th. Those guys started in the back of the field and finished 7-8. So
yeah, both of those drivers did start dead last and deader last because...
yeah, and then Matt Kleinschmidt, who started right in front of them, he finished 13th, so he had a good showing as well. Didn't talk about him probably at all, but he did have a decent showing. He set that really slow lap to start back there and worked his way up to midway through the field.
Again, watching Wade Hustad enjoy his victory here. This will be his, I believe it's his 3rd victory of the season here in the Molnar Automotive Cup Series, with a win at, I think it was Auto Club. I can't remember what he said, but I know he had a win at Michigan, and then tonight here at Chicagoland, his 2nd consecutive finish, and his second consecutive win in our league overall, and our 2nd consecutive race with 0 cautions, Martin.
Yeah, let's see. Where did he... Let's make sure we got where he won this season. Wins. Yeah, Michigan and... in the Cup Series, Michigan and Bristol, I'm seeing.
Bristol, okay. I think it was Anthony Burrows that won at Auto Club. Well, let's bring in Mr. Wade Hustad here, and let's help him celebrate. Hey, Wade, what's going on, buddy? You got a copy?
Trying to wring out all the sweat from that race.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm really sick of talking to you, bro. Like, you need to get out of here. For real. We interviewed
you. Might have to kick you from the broadcast then. Have somebody else step in.
Right? That's okay. You had a great race yesterday. Led all but 1 lap. Today, you led most of the laps. Something about Chicagoland, Wade, really just speaks to you. So tell us your secret.
I've turned a lot of laps here over the years, and Chicagoland was one of the first races I did for DRL back in the Winter Series in the trucks. It was a lot of fun racing back then. There was a ton of guys, but overall, I just have a real good feel for this track, and it's actually kind of a blast to drive and different than all the other cookie-cutter tracks that are 1.5 miles.
Excellent, Wade. You mentioned yesterday, one of the things I took away from yesterday's interview is you said you ran a flawless race. Would you say that you did that tonight as well?
I would say close to. I'd give myself probably a B. I built up a lead there that I could kind of give up some time getting onto pit road, getting off pit road. And towards the end there, I didn't really want to kill myself overdriving it or anything, so I started giving up after about 15 laps just to stay consistent. But overall, I'm happy with the way tonight's race went. I know if Justin Bolton would have turned a lap and started up front, it probably would have been his race. He was a lap down and got up to about 22 seconds behind everybody. But overall, great racing from Anthony and Jonathan Caden. They kept me honest tonight.
Now, we do have 1 week off, Wade, but next week, of course, we go to a wild card race at Daytona. Is that restrictor plate racing anything that you ever look forward to?
I do, but it's really just Russian roulette at that point in time. You have to make it to the last part of the race in order to even have a shot at winning, and still there's always chaos, with 1 lap to go. So I just want to be there at the end. If it comes to strategy and fuel mileage, I kind of have that down pat, and Chad and I are hopefully going to kind of team up there and keep in the front and hopefully come away with another win.
Awesome, Wade. Well, I don't know if you've had plenty of opportunities to give a shout out. If you've forgotten anybody up until this point, why don't you take this opportunity to shout out to them, Wade?
Boy, I really have to think about that. Somebody's revving my engine behind me. But no, just Dynasty Racing League. This is such a fantastic league. It really is why I'm on iRacing right now. I don't do any official stuff. I just have time for this, and that's about it. That's all I have to say is you guys do an amazing job with what you do, and all the time and dedication you put in just speaks testaments for everything that you guys do as a league. So without you guys, we wouldn't be anything, so thank you.
Awesome, Wade. Well, again, as we mentioned yesterday, we'll have to come up with some new material. Maybe you and I will start reading a chapter book together. Yeah. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just story time with Wade Hustad or something. But have a good week off, and then we'll see you at Daytona.
You guys too. We'll be chomping at the bit to get back.
Yeah, I know Daytona is definitely.
They're all rubbing their cars there right now.
Yeah, Daytona is definitely the type of race that everyone else kind of has that anxiety as they get into it. I believe someone's engine has just about let go. Now we're gonna bring.
Probably was Caden.
We're gonna bring in Anthony Burrows here, and
my ears.
Anthony Burrows, great race today, man. You just didn't quite have enough for Wade. What do you think was the difference?
I honestly don't know. He was by far the quickest. The short runs, middle of the run, and the long run. So I don't know. I went out and tried my best. I really didn't have much for him, but I think I did mess up both my pit stops. I probably lost a bit of time from that, but besides that, there's really no catching Wade tonight.
Now, I asked Wade this. I'll ask you as well. Early in the race, we visited Daytona. You had a great race. You got the pole position. You led the most laps. You were the lead car of the draft for most of it. Didn't quite get away with a victory. But now, in 2 weeks, you have your shot at redemption as we will be racing Daytona at night. Is restrictor plate racing the type of racing that you look forward to? Is it just something you kind of have to do because that's part of style car racing?
I don't really enjoy it as much in the Cup car. I think it's a bit more racy now from the new update, but in the Xfinity cars and trucks I enjoy it, but it's not the Cup car. It's not really my favorite type of racing.
Well, Anthony, if you have anyone to shout out to, I think now would be a perfect time.
Yeah, definitely shout out to Wade for winning tonight. No one was even close to him on speed. Shout out to everyone else that raced me clean. It was a really clean race. Went caution free in that one. Shout out to you guys for putting on the broadcast as always, and James and everyone who puts on this league.
Awesome, Anthony. Now we will see you in 2 weeks at Daytona. Until then, man, just enjoy yourself. Have a stupendous week off.
Thanks. You too.
And of course, that was Anthony Burrows. Now we'll move our attention to Jonathan Schwartz. Bring Jonathan Schwartz down here. Jonathan Schwartz, you got a copy, sir?
Yes, sir. I got you.
Well, today you had a solid finish. Take us, if you can, through what made you decide to kind of stay out a little bit longer. Obviously, it gave you fresh tires at the end, but what kind of made you make that decision?
Wade had the best car all night, was basically it there. I knew I pretty much had no chance to catch him. He was way too fast for me tonight, and staying out figure would at least give me a shot in case the caution came out, but it didn't. So
No, that's 2 weeks in a row where the caution actually hasn't come out. So I mean, you guys are not only are you racing incredibly close side by side, but you're doing it in a way that doesn't bring out any caution. So that's it's a huge that should be a huge pat on the back for you guys for sure.
yeah, for sure. The after this update that iRacing just had, I've really struggled with the tire model, and Wade hasn't skipped a beat, and Anthony sure hasn't skipped a beat. But I don't know. I don't practice as much as these guys do, I guess. But it's cool to finally be back up in the top 5 after a couple weeks.
Well, now I keep asking some of these drivers. We do have next week off, one of the rare off weeks that we have, and then we head to Daytona, which is a track that doesn't take a whole lot of practice, I feel like, but it's kind of going to be the equalizer for this series here. Do you like the type of racing that Daytona provides, or is it something that you kind of just have to do because it's just part of stock car racing?
Personally, if the draft model was a little bit better, sure, I'd love Daytona, but I kind of view it as a survival race from here on out. So just don't get caught up in any wrecks, and maybe I'll find my way back up front again. So
well, of course, we have plenty of other types of racetracks coming up on the schedule besides Daytona. So we look forward to you showing off what you got. Is there anyone that you want to give a shout out to, Jonathan?
I want to thank Cortland, the company that I work for. They do everything for me and help me come in here and race with you guys. And thank you guys for broadcasting every week for us. And thanks James Pandoff for everything he does and bringing the league out and adding new members ever so often, so we can continue to bring these races to you, and hope to bring some more exciting races on for the rest of the season.
Awesome. Martin, do you have anything here for Mr. Schwartz?
Just looking at the playoff standings, how much are you looking at picking up a few more wins to just keep pace with Anthony Burrows, and now Wade Hustad has 3 wins, the same as you?
I think I could have a decent shot if I can get this model down and get back to just continuing my consistency. I think I can get up there and hopefully at some point have the chance to tie Burrows with wins. So or even get past him at some point. But we're running out of time, and it's going to be full speed ahead for the playoffs now.
Well, Jonathan, we appreciate you taking time aside to chat with us, and we'll see you in a couple weeks at Daytona.
All right, have a good one.
I believe he was in race chat. I'm not 100% sure. As we shift our focus here to Mr. Honeycutt, looking for him there. We will move him to the broadcast booth. Mr. Honeycutt, you got a copy, sir?
Yes, sir.
You were solid top 5 car all race long. Is there anything different, do you think, in your mind that you could have done to maybe gain a position or two?
I didn't position myself very well on pit stops. I followed the 02 who finished 5th, and I slid through my box one time. I wasn't too bad, but Wade and Anthony and Schwartz pitted a lap later, and then we just got behind on tires. It really set us back. But last pit stop, Schwartz pitted like 5 laps after us, I think, and I was hoping he didn't get past me so I can get a podium, but it's all right. Good run, first race in the cup race for DRL, so it's certainly a fun race.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great race. Again, as I mentioned, you were top 5, from start to finish. So a great race by you. While we have you on the broadcast here for the Molnar Cup Series, is there anyone that you want to give a shout out to, Caden?
thank you for DRL for accepting my application to race in Cup Series trucks, Grand Nationals. Race Agent for letting me run their paint schemes and supporting their organization as well. And thank you, broadcasters, who show up every race. We really appreciate you. Without you guys, we wouldn't be popular like we are. So thank you.
Well, awesome, man. Again, yeah, you had that great run at Iowa in the Winona Road Truck Series. You had a great run today. Do you plan on running Gateway tomorrow in the Truck Series, or are we going to see you at Daytona in a couple weeks?
I actually take this week off. I got a lot of things to do. We got our first ARCA test actually on Tuesday, and we're racing me and my dad and one other guy put together our late model, and we're gonna go race Pensacola and Mobile on Friday and Saturday. So my schedule will be pretty full.
Well, it certainly sounds like you'll be having more fun than I will be having. So because I'll be busy getting my bell rung at Gateway with Martin Wenzel. So. enjoy your week, and again, we'll see you in a couple weeks at Daytona, hopefully, Caden.
Man, I'll see y'all later. Thank you.
And we will move him down to, I believe it was Overtake Motorsports here. One last driver, Martin, is Joseph Held. Joe, you got a copy?
Yeah, I gotcha.
This is the booth here. Again, as we, obviously as we're interviewing the top 5 finishers, you had a great top 5 finish. I mentioned in the broadcast, it seemed like you, more than maybe some of the others, were really having fun with that tail end, hopping out almost every time the camera was on you. Is that the type of racing setup that you like to run, or would you prefer a tighter vehicle?
Definitely wasn't trying to do that. I was trying to save that right rear. I did a much better job of that in the first run and was actually moving forward. And then the last 2, I just couldn't figure it out.
Well, again, a solid top 5. You've had a couple. I believe you've had a couple top 5s in the DRL so far with us this season. Next year, fighting for a championship is obviously going to be the goal, but for this year, do you see yourself closing out this season at some point with getting a victory here in the Dynasty Racing League?
I'd like to. With Speed Wade showed tonight, I don't know, man.
What if it's going to be at a track? Which track is it going to be at, Joe?
Ooh, I really like. These 1.5 miles suit me well. I really like being on the throttle quite a bit. So I think I'd have a pretty good shot at one of these 1.5 miles here. I like Homestead a lot.
Well, hopefully you don't have to wait till the very last race of the season to get a victory, Joe. But again, as me and Martin talked about, we look forward to you new guys kind of maybe ruining some of the party for some of these championship guys, because they've been here the whole season. So hopefully we get to see you and some of your the other new faces get in a victory lane soon. And is there anyone that you want to give a shout out to while we have you?
Yeah, thanks everybody coming out to watch it. Thank you guys in the booth giving us a good show, and awesome that we went green flag tonight.
Yeah, no, certainly that's always a good day. Martin, do you have anything here for Mr. Joe Held?
No, I'm looking forward to what you do the rest of the season and going into next season, competing for that championship. So, good luck.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Well, again, that was our top 5, Martin. Again, this has been the Chicagoland 200. Looking here at the unofficial results, Wade Hustad leading most of the laps, by a lot. Jonathan Schwartz was able to lead a few when he stayed out for those green flag pit stops. And again, I'll actually bring it back. We mentioned our top 10. Obviously, the most impressive runs tonight besides Wade Hustad would have been Justin Bolton, Thomas Harmon, both starting in the rear row. Or the last row rather, and both of them end up getting top 10s. That's the type of run that we saw last week from Eric Wolf, and those are the type of runs that that's how you win championships. You are able to fight through adversity and still end up with a great finish. So nothing to really be too sad about there for those 2 drivers. As we look here at the rest of the field, for the Molnar Automotive Cup Series. Again, Martin, today's race was Chicagoland 200. The next race will be at Daytona. Just remind everyone that next week we are off. It'll be in 2 weeks that me and Martin will be back here on DRL TV, bringing to you a live broadcast of Daytona 200. It'll be a night race. It'll be fun. It'll be exciting, as restricted plate racing always is. Now tomorrow, Martin and I trade in our microphones and grab some steering wheels, as we will be competing in the Gateway 150. David Wellborn, Taylor Butcher Benjamin will be broadcasting live for DRL TV here as we circled the Gateway Motorsports Park 120 times, which I think is 119 times too many, Martin, but that's just my opinion. Oh, that track is ridiculous. But, Martin, do you have anything, do you have any takeaways from this race today?
It's just week in, week out, it's becoming the way it goes, is that we just have these long green flag runs. I mean, it's very much more like what you see in real life, where it's just guys racing and having to figure out what they're going to do in the green flag laps, green flag stops. I mean, it's really it's piling up out there. I mean, these guys are, the storylines are growing. More and more drivers are, locking themselves in for the playoffs, or putting themselves in that conversation as guys that are going to be playoff drivers next year when they have more of that participation. And it's becoming more and more exciting, and I can't wait until we get to a race. Some of these races where we got these big tracks and it gets pretty spread out, but I can't wait until we get to a race like Bristol and we got these guys all bashing doors with each other.
Right. Well, even a race like New Hampshire, which I saw was coming up, that's very much a one-groove racetrack, and in order to pass somebody, you kind of gotta, give them a little bit of a nudge here and there every now and again. But a great race today. A great last couple races. The league itself is in a great position right now with all the talent that we have. So again, Martin, it makes our job so easy. Really, all we have to do is make sure that the broadcast is turned on, and then the rest speaks for itself. So that's great. Now, for DRL TV, there is a list of drivers involved. I always give a little special shout-out to Martin Wenzel and Jordan Gonzalez. They provide the graphics that we see that makes this thing look pretty. Jordan provides the assistance with the software that makes the graphics do what they do. So those two guys are huge for the DRL TV system, I guess is what you want to call it. And then for the administrators, if you have any questions, concerns, or comments, if you're in the league racing, those 6 names there, you can contact us through Discord or through iRacing if you prefer. And any problems that you come up with or that you might have, we'll certainly resolve. Lastly, if you enjoy what DRL TV brings, we broadcast somewhere. Not lately, because these guys have had such short races because of the green flag running, but normally we bring you about 10 hours a week of live coverage between our 4 series. So DRL TV has definitely been busy lately, and if you like the broadcast that we bring to you, and if you have a driver that you like to watch, just make sure that you hit the subscribe button on YouTube, and you'll be alerted anytime that we start a broadcast, normally around this time, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Next week, however, we all get a break, and then we'll be back to Daytona. So, Martin, do you have anything else for us tonight?
No, see you in 2 weeks, or see you tomorrow for the truck race, and on Thursday for the Indy race.
Yep,
and
Thursday.
Then we'll see you in 2 weeks, or we'll see you after 4th of July weekend, or 4th of July week. I guess it's right in the middle of the week, and when we go to Daytona, and I think Daytona, and then I think trucks are going to be in Chicagoland, right?
But, yep, trucks are going to be at Chicagoland, showing off.
Otherwise, Daytona.
Yeah, no, it'll be great. Now, again, we like to take an opportunity real quick to thank our sponsors, Molnar Automotive for our Cup Series, Winona Road for our Truck Series, Northeast Ohio Ghostbusters for our Grand National Series. If you have any interest in sponsoring, there's a website in the description below the broadcast here. Use that. Contact Mr. James Pandolf. You two can have yourselves a beautiful conversation. But as for us here today, DRL TV is out. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time.